Hello everybody, Jonks here from Got Friends, and today we're going to be talking about our latest release, the DoubleEnder. Now this aircraft is now available for Microsoft Flight Simulator. We released it over the FS Expo weekend, so if you guys were caught up in all the news and the announcements, this is a little announcement of our own, and it is now available on our website. It was released to the public for $19.99. And it will be available on the Xbox and PC in-game marketplace in early July. We're looking at around July 6th. Of course, that may shift depending on Microsoft, on their needs, and some other analytics there. So we'll keep you guys all informed if it does shift in date. But we're looking around early July, July 6th for the release on both PC and Xbox. And we're really excited to get this out to everybody out there. And for those of you who have purchased it already on PC, I want to say thank you right now. You guys, without your support, without you coming directly to us, we wouldn't be here today. So very thankful from the whole team of Got Friends. We're very thankful for everything you guys do for us, for all the support, for all the feedback, for everything that you've shared throughout this development cycle to kind of gain some traction on this project. Thank you once again. And so yeah, today's little video is going to be just kind of a dive into what the DoubleEnder is, what are some features, maybe to answer some questions you guys may have. We've been seeing some feedback on the forums that maybe some things aren't clear enough, or maybe you're just trying to learn the aircraft, and this video may help you get these things down a little bit faster than what you would expect. So let's jump into it. So once again, it was originally released on June 23rd, so just a few days ago. And there's a trailer available on YouTube online on our website if you want to watch that. And yeah, this aircraft is very exciting for our team. When we first looked at this aircraft, before we even started touching it, our team pretty much all knew what this aircraft was. This aircraft was a real-world aircraft, and it came out around 2008 is when development started popping up on this. And it's by a man known as Alec D. Wild and his team of innovators who built this prototype. And their overall goal was to basically maximize performance and safety wherever possible, have extreme visibility so they can see out that huge open glass canopy, and basically evolutionize and take that next step towards what they defined as the modern bush plane. So a lot of people out there, the first thought of seeing this is, man, this is an ugly aircraft. I cannot say that I agree nor disagree with that. I believe it is an incredible aircraft. Yes, it has a very unique look to it. But all these things were designed in mind to give you an incredible experience out in the backcountry. And yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what that is. So obviously we just talked about the incredible views that you can have with this bubble canopy. It was very important to our team to kind of have a minimal obstructions in front of that glass canopy, so we have a very simple navigation aid setup, and just because it's simple doesn't mean it's not deep, and we'll be covering that later, and I'm sure that's why a lot of you are here watching this video today, is because you have some questions about the systems, probably specifically the MVP50 system that you can see here that we have two of. One's monitoring the front engine, the other's monitoring the rear engine. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that one. Another exciting feature that we'd like to highlight is we did bring a dynamic dirt system to this aircraft. I'm not sure if other developers have done this yet, but I am pretty positive that we are the only developer that has done it in such an extensive detail. And we brought 128 layers of dirt that compact and wash away on all your tires individually, on surfaces individually, under your wings, on your flaps. As you fly this thing, it's dynamic. So if you're landing more, you're getting dirtier. If you're flying in rain, you're cleaning your fuselage off. If you're landing in mud, you're getting really deep compacted dirt around your tires. I mean, even if you go lake skimming, you're going to clean your tires off. So we made sure to add 128 layers of dynamic dirt at all levels, and I'll show you guys a little bit later how you can play with those in game. And on top of that, we added another 20 layers, which I didn't highlight on the website, of wear and tear on the tires. So there's, as your tires decrease over time and they start to age and they're used and worn, you'll start to see scuffs come up all the way down to cuts and damage, in which you need to replace your tire in the workshop, which we'll talk about here later. So like I said, it's simple and deep. Just because it's a very open cockpit with a very simple nav stack doesn't mean it's not deep. And that's something our development group decided to do early on, was we wanted a core emphasis on realism. So this aircraft is a flagship for Got Friends, and if you're not aware what flagship is, it means it's one of our biggest releases of the year. We've been working on this for a very long time. We're extremely happy about it. It's probably arguably our best aircraft to date, with the amount of features and customizable options that we've been able to bring to the table for you guys to enjoy. And like I said, it focuses on realism. So you're going to get wear and tear, you're going to get engine failures, you're going to get electrical failures, you're going to have breakers popping behind your head, you're going to have customizable options of a ton of stuff. And then also, there's, like I said, there's a repair workshop. And you're going to be using these things to keep track of your flight, to track your hours, to track your wear and tear, and they are all persistent. So from flight to flight degradation, you go flying, and let's say you ended your flight with 12 gallons of fuel. The next time you start up the game, you're going to have 12 gallons of fuel. So you guys need to monitor these things very carefully to ensure that you're not breaking your aircraft or overstressing it. And then I would just like to point out right now that these realism features can be turned off. So if you guys do not like flying with all this crazy realism, you just want to enjoy a quick flight with the boys in the backcountry, you go ahead and toggle that realism off, and you don't have to worry about blowing up your engine or monitoring things. Everything will be a-okay for your flight. And then I'd just like to emphasize again that maybe you do like realism, but you still want to hit the backcountry on like a Twitch stream or something, and you know you're going to be yanking and banking and pushing this thing to the max. You can always turn that realism off. We're not going to delete your stats. Your wear and tear will stay where it is, and it will just be waiting for you until you turn realism back on so that your wear and tear can continue from there. And then before we jump in game, I'd like to emphasize that our aircraft does come with the GTN 650 by PMS50 installed. It also comes with the MFD 650 by Asobo. You're probably familiar with that if you've flown the Cabri before. And that's in there basically for Xbox so that they can have a nice navigation system out the get-go. And so those two are included. But however, there is PMS's 50 GTN 650 WTT, so it includes working title technology, and TDS's GTN 650 XI, which is another great navigation software / add-on that you can install. So if you guys are out there and you have these options or you want to work with these options, we do have these replacement packages available on our website for free. You can just go ahead and click this, download them, and drag and drop them directly in the folder with your Got Friends DoubleEnder. So you got your community folder, you'll see Got Friends DoubleEnder, and then you'll see Got Friends DoubleEnder GTN WTT, and so it just sits right there next to the other aircraft. And now I like to preference you can only use one of these at a time. Don't be dragging two replacement packages into the folder. That's going to screw some stuff up. And then also I would like to say that both of these, you cannot use the Asobo MFD 650, the one I was talking about earlier with the Cabri, because that's the reason why they're replacement packages and not default in the DoubleEnder, is because there was some conflicts there. And so if you do install one of these mods, you will lose functionality of Asobo's standard GTN 650. Now before we start, I just want to do a quick little reminder to everybody that if you have downloaded the zip file from our website that contains the DoubleEnder, make sure you guys are extracting this properly and placing it into your Microsoft Flight Later community folder or whatever folder you're using. And you'll know you're doing it correctly if you have a Got Friends DoubleEnder folder, and inside that DoubleEnder folder you see your manifest, your layout, your documentation, effects, and objects. That's how you know you've installed it correctly in the proper folder structure. Otherwise, this aircraft will not appear in your hangar. So I know there's some people out there who use different extracting methods, whether that's WinRAR, 7-zip, or just playing with the Windows unzip. Make sure you guys, after the unzipping the file and extracting it, that you're placing the correct folder into your community folder. Otherwise, yeah, it's not going to work. So there's been kind of a lot of questions coming to the community, not just for the DoubleEnder, but for all our aircraft, and it's probably 99% of the time these guys have extracted the Got Friends DoubleEnder version 1.00 folder to their community folder without realizing that they should be taking the folder inside of that one and pushing that one into the community folder. So yeah, let's jump in game. And before we do anything, I'd just like to preference that this is version 1.01. So this is a non-released update that's coming out in the next day or two for those of you who have purchased it on the website, but is also coming to the in-game PC and Xbox crowd shortly after the July 6th release window. So I want to make sure that this video holds future validity and that we're covering all the extensive features that we've even added in the last 3 days post-release based on feedback from the community. So I hope you guys can, if you're watching this and you don't have access to 101, I hope you guys are very excited for some of these new things that I'll be showing you today. And if you do have 101 and you're watching this video at a later date, you know that this video is going to be covering everything that you need to know, probably in its current state. And if there is anything changed after 101, we're going to be letting you guys know. Obviously, follow us on Discord, follow us on our website or on YouTube. We're going to be pushing these things out to you guys to ensure that everybody knows all the new features coming. So the first 3 liveries that we're going to be talking about is our default livery, our prototype livery, and our original livery. And these liveries are pretty important to those of us out there that know the real world DoubleEnder. These are what feature its real life stages of development. So these 3 liveries, for those who are, you know, real big fans of the real world aircraft, these are the ones you're going to want to look for. Default's arguably the most famous one. And yeah, after that, we're going into our kind of creative design liveries. And once again, 270 Inc., our texture artist, did an incredible job with all these liveries. Big shout out to him, giving a variety for all these people out there in the community that want to fly with their friends, but you know, everyone gets sick of flying the same livery, so there's tons of options here. We have 16 liveries now available on the DoubleEnder, not just 12 that was with the original release. So I'll be talking about the 4 new ones here in a second. But yeah, very exciting stuff, and Josh did an incredible job on this, so big round of applause to him. So we have Camouflage, we have Cub, we have Rango, we have Cozy, which is arguably my favorite. I love this one. We have Spec Ops. And then here's a new one for version 101. We have Classic, which is very inspired by like a husky type look. We have Traditional, which is very vintage for those of you who love the vintage bush. We're kind of bringing this back so that you guys can enjoy something more of that nature. And then we have one that I'm really excited for, Topography. This is kind of a modge-podge of a map kind of placed over that fabric fuselage. And I'm really excited about this one, not just because it's a map, but because it actually features the home of the DoubleEnder. So everything on this map is based on where the real-world DoubleEnder is based out of. So some tidbit for there if you guys want to go outside this aircraft and kind of explore the map. Really cool stuff out there waiting for you to find on this livery. Then we get into another section of the liveries where we're going to be talking about our Twitch partnerships. And yes, this isn't some ad that I'm throwing on our video. This is us helping out the community who help us. And some of the Twitch streamers out there are really good at helping Got Friends. They help push our products. But not only that, they're great friends to us. And we want to make sure that their Xbox community, their PC community, everybody can have these things as default straight out the bat, and so there's not a bunch of bonanzas flying around with their own custom liveries. We're going to include them in our products, and it's just a way for us to say thank you to them and to help highlight their legacy as well. So included in the DoubleEnder currently is the Candonians, or Ucandu. We have the Solo Gang, which is West Coast Willie. The Dukes, which is, of course, the Duke Nukem. He's a very great scenery developer out there. If you guys are not aware of his work, go hit up his Twitch channel. He's always developing sceneries live. So if you guys are new to that and you want to learn about it, I'm sure he'll help you guys out. But he's also a great streamer. So then, of course, Gasser, which Airpack 1, if you don't know Airpack 1, he's one of these guys that have been pushing community liveries on FlightSim.to for a very long time. Very talented texture artist. Actually helped create this livery with 270 Inc. And just very excited to highlight his work in-game. And then lastly, new to version 1.01, we are announcing that we are in partnership with BurstX TV. And we're bringing him and his community a livery as well, which is very cool, very inspired off his logo. And I hope you guys have a blast with this one. And I hope you guys enjoy the fact that we do take this time to put some community liveries into our product. It's very important to us. We've done it for a long time, and we're going to continue to do that in the future. So today, like I said, I'm going to be flying Cozy. I freaking love this livery, arguably one of my favorite ones. And we're going to go ahead and check out, a lot of you asked where we flew in the trailer. And to answer your question, that was the Riggins Ridgetop. So I'm going to go ahead and set my departure here. Kelly Creech Ridge is also another great one that was featured in the trailer. You know, actually, let's take out a Kelly's Ridge. So these sceneries, once again, are developed by the Duke Nukem, and they're available for FlightSim.to. So if you guys are wondering, like, how come your trailers look so cool all the time, I feel like some of the scenery is not in the base game. It's because it's not in the base game, right? So I highly recommend you guys go to FlightSim.to, check out some of these livery makers out there, download some of your favorite stuff, and support them as well. We're always trying to work with these guys to really push our products to the next level, not only in our trailers and videos, but just to have fun. Alright, so the first thing you're going to notice when you get in the DoubleEnder is, well, how do I start this thing? Yes, it looks simple, but you know, you need to kind of get to the flow where things are. And of course I say flow as flow pops up. Shout out to Parallel 42 for that one. Great little piece of software if you guys don't have that. So I will mention that we do have a checklist in game, and I highly recommend that if you don't already, and this is your first startup in the DoubleEnder, to go to your assistance options, go down to piloting, turn on your assisted checklist, and then once you have that turned on, you can go to our checklist and you can click on evaluation.
Weight and balance.
And then basically it's going to walk you through this whole thing. Now I'll just do a quick little thing here so you guys can see how this works. So weight and balance, it's telling you to go check your weight and balance, because that's the first thing you should arguably do every time you jump in an aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. In this case, I do want to point out that passenger seat and main cargo no seat are on the same one, because we do have an option to take out the passenger seat and to load up your camping gear cargo. So if you're looking to put weight into that seat, it's the same thing as if you're putting weight into your co-pilot or your passenger. And then we have a separate rear cargo. So that's kind of something that gets confused right now in the community is, hey, I put rear cargo weight in my rear cargo, but I don't see my camping site. Well, it's because you probably haven't put weight up in your main cargo, because that's where the camping gear is stowed. So if you want to see your camping site, you need at least 40 pounds to see the tent, all the way up to the max of 170 pounds to see everything. And like I said, everything it pops in and pops out based on your weight level. So if you put 70 pounds in your main cargo, you're only going to see like your tent and like a fuel canister and maybe a bedroll. You're not going to see the whole experience. And same thing, if you deploy your campsite but you only had 70 pounds to begin with, you're only going to see a few of those campsite features. So keep that in mind when you're loading for your trip, and how much stuff you want to bring, and kind of what your interaction features are going to be for the flight. So we'll tick that.
Verified. Door.
Now it's going to ask me to do the door. It's closed already, and the only reason this is on the checklist is because, like I said, the aircraft is fully persistent. So if you left the game with the door open, next time you jump in, the door is going to be open. So this checklist is kind of tailored towards that.
Elevator trim handle. Set to neutral. Control surfaces. Free and correct. Flap handle. Position verified. Circuit breakers.
So as you guys can see, this is how the checklist works. It's very good. It will walk you through the whole thing. It will read it out for you if you have evaluation mode turned on, and basically get you from ground zero all the way to both your engines started and taxiing out and flying. So make sure you guys, if this is your first time, I highly recommend checking out the checklist. If you don't want to go through the checklist of the flight manual and you're just looking for kind of a quicker, more dirty, down to earth one, go ahead and check out the checklist in game. It will get you guys in the air pretty fast. So yeah, let's talk about some of these features here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my master battery, which is right here. I'm going to check on my avionics. Once your avionics are turned on, you'll see that all your screens are going to start turning on. And this is the MFD650 by Asobo, which is default. So if you guys do have PMS50 installed, you can do two things. You can either click on the SD card to load different software. Obviously I don't have it for today's video, but that will show you that your PMS50. Or you can use your page selection, and you can go down to top display, and you can change it here as well. And like I said, all these things are persistent, so if you set it once, you're going to set it the entire time. And yeah, that's how that works. So let's talk about our biggest thing, the MVP50s. This is what is the core of our Realism. This is an incredible piece of software that Gravel wrote for this aircraft. So big shout out to him for all the time he put into this. And yeah, so this is our engine data display, the first page you see. And so this is your front engine and your rear engine. And this will be display various things. So it will have your manifold pressure, your RPM. It will have, you'll see when the engines are turned on, it will show you the progress of each cylinder up to 4 cylinders, all the various stats associated with that. And then also we have the screen selections, okay? So currently displayed is our fuel, oil, and electrical screen. This will show you certain various things like fuel flow, fuel pressure, oil pressure, all the stuff that you can see on the screen here. If you hit screen while on this page, it will take you to our digital gauge page, and this will have various things like your heading, airspeed, your altitude, and your vertical speed. Now inside here, if you right click, or if you're using Legacy, left click, you'll see that it highlights my barometer, and you can go ahead and calibrate your altitude by scrolling on the mouse. And this is how you can set your altimeter. I know a lot of you guys out there are using FastSim and stuff. This is extremely important. So this is how you do that in this aircraft. And then to get out of that, you can just right click again, or you can click exit. The next screen is our competition screen. This is very exciting. We kind of brought this, kind of inspired by Arkansas. This will track your ground roll in both feet and meters, and will also have your current wind indications and knots. And so these things will change. I'll show you guys that in a bit, how you can do that. But this is basically used for, you know, either friendly or serious competition with your friends, where you want to say, hey man, I landed in 30 feet. No one's going to believe you unless you share a screenshot of that and your wind. And so this is kind of a quick way for you guys to share that statistics with the community, and kind of a fun thing to get into with a bunch of friends. So I want to be talking about what this knob does exactly. So like I said, you can scroll it to switch pages, and I'll be talking through all these pages for you guys. And then we can also hit, if you go to a page and you hit home, you'll go all the way back to your engine data center, okay? So no matter what page you're on, if you need, like, oh my gosh, something's happened to my engine, hurrying quick home, you'll be able to get your engine stats right there on the screen really fast. Now the exit button, that is used to exit or go back for cursor selection. Now I know as people are using this knob, it's going to be a little easier sometimes to hit exit than it is to right click and select something. So there's always that other additional option if you need it. So let's go into our first screen. So it's the MVP50 configuration screen. So this is where you can set display brightness. So if you right click, or like I said, Legacy, left click on this knob, you'll bring up an arrow where you can go through and change things. Once you find the one you want to select, you can right click again. So this is display brightness. Something of note here, this covers the entire aircraft, not just the MVP system. So as I decrease my brightness, you'll see that it's affecting my MVP, my backlighting, my actual lights up here as well. So as you go through the brightness, keep that in mind, that this setting is also affecting everything. And then once you're done setting it, right click again to go out of it. So it's very intuitive. You can right click to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. Once you're as deep as you can go, you can right click to go backwards. Temperature units, you can change this from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Fuel units, gallons to liters. Pressure units, bar, PSI, airspeed, knots, or miles per hour, or kph. Vertical speed units, we have feet or meters per second. Altitude, we got feet or meter. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So if I set this to meter, I go back to my home and I switch over to the digital gauge screen, our altitude will now be displayed in meters instead of feet. So things that you affect on the screen will affect every other screen. So keep that in mind. And then lastly, we have barometer units, ING or MBAR. So we'll go to the next page, aircraft configuration. Now this is probably the biggest page. Everything you set in this page will affect your entire experience in the game. Okay, so we've tried to really set these things to a really good base default on the DoubleEnder for your first load up in the aircraft. However, everyone's different. Everybody wants different things, a different experience. And just note, these things are persistent. So if you change these things, it should stay with you from flight to flight and not change. So I highly recommend your first time in the aircraft, sit down, really explore this system before you even turn on your engines. See what it's all about before you start getting into some questions about, hey, my engine's breaking. Well, I didn't want Realism. Why is Realism on? How do I change it? So these are where you do it in the aircraft configuration menu. So the first one is belly pod. If we have it installed, you'll notice on the front of the aircraft, you'll see your belly pod or optional cargo pod as well, which holds that additional 55 gallons for your flight. And you can always right click to remove that, and it will remove the pod for you. And something about the belly pod, that one is active in multiplayer, so if you're flying with a friend who doesn't have a pod, you'll know that he doesn't have a pod because you'll see it. So that's a very cool feature on our aircraft. We have a lot of multiplayer features. Rear seat, you can have it removed or you can have it installed. If you have it installed, you'll notice because the seat's in back, and you'll also, in exterior view, you're going to notice that we have a passenger. Depending on the weight of the passenger, if it's over 1 pound, you're going to have a passenger, so keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead and remove it for this flight so I can show you some of the campsite features. And then top display, like I mentioned, with that one, you can switch between GTN or PM or the Asoba one. Realism, I'm going to go ahead and enable that so we can talk through all the features of that today. So Realism is going to enable many things. It's going to enable your wear and tear. It's going to enable your electrical failures. It's going to enable engine failures. It's going to enable the workshop so you can repair these things, and it's also going to enable things like fuel loading, oil levels, and just basically all the very deep mechanics. So if you're the kind of person that just wants to jump in here, hit Control E, go flying with the boys, and not really worry about managing your entire system, turn Realism off. Or if you're a beginner and you're not sure how deep you want to go in this aircraft yet, maybe this is your first time in Microsoft Flight Simulator, go ahead and turn Realism off. It's on by default, but go ahead and turn it off until you start learning about the aircraft, how it handles, how it feels, and then turn it on and start getting deeper into the mechanics. Next is your Tiedowns. They're currently removed. You can install them. As you can see, they'll just be tied down on the aircraft. Same things with the pitot cover here. You can go ahead and install that and you'll see the pitot cover. And so these are things you'll want to remove before flight, or maybe you want to have them on for screenshots. Then the camping site, which we'll talk about here at the very end of the screen. So aircraft dirt, so we have it set to dynamic currently. So dynamic, like I said, we have 128 layers of dynamic dirt, and as you fly, as you land, as you're in mud, rain, water, it's going to react per surface, per tire, as you fly. And so dynamic's probably where you want to leave it if you're looking for that kind of realistic experience. Otherwise, if you're looking for the quick screenshot, you can go ahead and switch it to none, which is no dirt obviously, very light, medium wet, heavy, and heavy wet, which I'll go ahead and show you the heavy wet currently on the fuselage. You can see it's just going to set it heavy wet around the whole thing, okay? And so keep that in mind, like as you're flying in dynamic, maybe you're braking harder on the right tire, and the left tire spinning more. You're going to see more mud on that left tire than the right tire if you're in dynamic. But as you set it on these modes, everything's going to be equal across, okay? So it's mainly used for screenshots or if you just want to look dirty as you're flying around. And then lastly, there's dynamic again if you keep scrolling. So you can actually go from heavy wet to dynamic, and it will keep your, see if I can get it here. After heavy wet to dynamic, and it will keep all your dirt on your aircraft. Otherwise, if you want to go to none, back to dynamic, you'll start out with no dirt on dynamic. So you can start out pretty much on either no dirt and then go straight into dynamic, or heavy dirt and go straight into cleaning your aircraft. If you're interested in just seeing how that works, you can do that. But yeah, like I said, if you're on anything other than dynamic, none of those features will work. So if you're trying to clean your tires in the lake, you're skimming the water surface and they're not cleaning off, maybe check your settings, make sure you're in dynamic, because if you're not in dynamic, it's just overriding the system and you're always going to look dirty at whatever level you set. Next is your prop spinners. Currently, by default, your prop spinners are off, and that's up here, as you can see. So if you're more you more like the aerodynamic presence of those things, you can go ahead and install those. And you're going to see your nice little prop spinner up here. We'll go ahead and leave that on for today's flight. Registration decal, same thing. These are just some little things. You're going to notice there's no registration decal on the tail, but if you enable that, you're going to go ahead and have a registration displayed. This is a very nice feature to have because a lot of developers like to include different panel CFGs because they want some liveries with or without. In ours, we let you choose. If you want to show it, you can show it. If you don't want to show it, you don't have to show it. This one is not affected in multiplayer on purpose, so I don't know if you guys have noticed, but sometimes you're flying a multiplayer, you see some pink registrations on people's decals in multiplayer because they're not compatible yet. You can just turn them off in general so that nobody around you has them showing. So we made sure to let you have control on this one in multiplayer so that your experience is as best as it can be. And then the next one is your pilot visibility. You can disable that, and if you disable that, it's really good for screenshots. Like I said, you can show that there's no pilots in the aircraft, even though there is. It's just basically turning off pilot visibility. Vibration effects, I think default is set to 80. I'm going to set that to 100 today. This is basically vibration, so your stick vibrating, your throttle quadrants vibrating and moving, and just various things that vibrate and move throughout the aircraft, and that brings you that more, I don't know, feeling of life inside the aircraft. A lot of people, though, they do have some sensitivities, or maybe they just don't want to experience the full cycle of vibrations. We allow you to turn that off. So I know a big thing was stuttering and stuff. Last thing we want to do is have vibrations being so extensive that it's affecting your gameplay and messing with your eyesight and vision, for those of you out there with that. So here's the option for you to turn that off if you don't want them. And then the last one is visual effects. And so if you're running on a low-end computer and maybe you can't handle the DoubleEnder with all the visual glory of all these things with dust kick up, dirt kick up, water spray, combustion, all the stuff we've done visual effects wise, you can go ahead and disable that, and you'll just have the default experience without visual effects. This also affects multiplayer effects. We have done multiplayer on water spray, on dirt spray, on low flyby, on combustion. So if you guys don't want to see other players and help your frames, you can go ahead and disable it here in the menu. Alright, so that was a big one. That was aircraft configuration. Like I said, it's a very big port. First stop you should go to after you get things set up so you know you're tailored for your flight. Next is your aircraft V-speeds, and this will be varied based on your selection of units, right? So I'm displaying knots currently, and this is just a quick reference for anything dealing with speeds. Your full flap speeds, flaps up speeds, rotation speeds, takeoff speeds, all that stuff, okay? So there's nothing to select here. You can't try to select anything. You're not changing anything. This is just simply a reference chart right there in your face so you know exactly what to look for. Next is the workshop. And you'll know it's open for business if your engines are turned off and you're not flying, okay? So the workshop, as you can see here, the workshop is open for business. Now, I currently have no damage because this is a new load for you guys. But let me hurry and quickly do this. I'll go over this a little bit here sooner. This is an override page, okay? So if I just override something and I go back, you're going to see that my alternator is at 50%, which is about right before it turns into the yellow category. So to fix that, you're going to left or right click, depending on your setup. You're going to go over to the alternator. In this case, it's the alternator rear, and then right click again, and you're going to see it jumps to 100% because it has now been repaired. So as things break or as things degrade with wear and tear on this aircraft, you can always go in here, shut down your engines, park the aircraft, and then go into the workshop and fix things up before your next takeoff. Something of note here, the front engine stress and rear engine stress are based off of high RPM usage. And so if you have Realism on and you're going full RPM and you're literally kind of pushing so much stress onto that engine, the higher this number is going to start growing up to 100%, then it's going to start damaging your actual engine. So keep that in mind if you're seeing these numbers get into the yellow or into the red, to pull back a little bit on your throttle and give yourself some breathing room. Let these numbers kind of die down on stress so that you're not damaging your engine. Because everything in this page has a consequence. If something fails, you're going to know it fails. If your engine's at 0% health because you've been stressing it for so long, your engine's going to die midair. If your battery dies, you're going to be solely relying on your alternators. If your alternators dies, you're going to be relying on your batteries. As both batteries and alternators start to die, you're going to get more electrical failures. You're going to have more circuit breakers popping. Same thing with left brakes and tires. If these things are starting to fail on you, you're going to notice it because your stopping distance is going to be longer. You're going to maybe lose all brakes, you know. So there's very important things here to monitor and make sure that if you're playing on Realism that you go to the workshop and you fix it often. The next page, like I quickly went through, was the wear and tear overrides page. So this is for people who maybe want to start a flight with nothing. So maybe they want to be like, hey, I want to simulate that my battery is like really close to dying and it's at 15%. And then, you know, you're going to have more failures in flight now because your battery is not producing, you know, healthy voltage to the rest of your system. And yeah, so you can set all this stuff up. And like I said, it's very nice for those people who want to customize what kind of flight they want to have. Something of note with version 1.01, we have added oil levels front and oil levels rear. So very exciting stuff there. I'm going to go a little bit into that more into the next page. But yeah, we're continually adding things to this project, especially based on feedback from the community. So I hope you guys are excited about these new things as much as we are. And we're going to keep pushing Realism on our aircraft in the future because we really like the use of these systems. It really gives some depth to our products, and a lot of people are very happy with the way we implement them. They're not too deep, but they're very deep enough to really be critical for your flight. So one more thing I'd like to mention, that if you do override something, so let's say you've done like 6 flights and your brakes are like 88%, if you do override it, you're going to lose all that progress. So don't override something that you're not afraid of losing. Because if you're one of those people who want to really just age your aircraft and you like stacking hours on its airframe and going through all these failures and damages and experiencing it in real time, the second you override one of those components, you're going to be losing your progress, okay? So make sure you're not doing this unless that's what you want to do. And then lastly is a brand new page that we've added to our MVP50 suite, which is the refueling services and oil services page, okay? And so this is basically an oversight visual diagram of what your fuel system is currently doing. So currently we have good oil in the rear, good oil in the front. Our front engine and our rear engine are turned off. We have fuel in the left tank and fuel in the right tank. Now if you see here and I go and add more fuel into the left, you'll see the fuel increase in the left tank, right? If I go over here and I turn on the fuel pump, you're going to see that my front fuel pump is now turned on. So it's a very nice visualizer here for those of you who like that. And then also if you add the belly pod, you're going to get a little bit more than just that. You're going to get your auxiliary fuel tank, with your additional feed switches here, which, as you can see, you turn the feed switch on and off. You'll let you know that you're making your connection. You can turn your aux pump on, and you'll start feeding fuel from your fuel aux tank. So if I give me some fuel in here, you're going to notice I'm now feeding fuel from my auxiliary tank into my fuel left tank. And you can actually see that happening here in real time if that's what you're interested in, the specific numbers, how much gallons are moving over. And then lastly, I'd like to talk about your fuel state. So some people just want to jump in and set their fuel to their desired state right off the bat. So you can go ahead and right click and make, same thing applies here with the workshop. You have to be turned off. Your engines have to be turned off. You have to be parked in order to use this. But you can go to competition. You can right click. You can set your tanks to competition mode, which is very minimal, the lightest you can be. Short range, mid range, long range. And then let's say that your oil levels are low, you can even top up your oil in here. Okay, so this is a very cool page. I hope you guys are excited for it. Very nice to visualize everything. So today we're just going to go for a mid-range flight. And let's go ahead and start feeding some of our fuel into our left and right tanks, as you can see here. And yeah, that is the MVP50 system. And yeah, usually what I would recommend if this is your first time, I would definitely have one page up with your engine data and another page up with your engine data and digital gauge display. And then if you need to go back and forth, just cycle through the screens. But this is pretty important. This aircraft is extremely simple. On real world pictures, we didn't even see an altimeter or an airspeed indicator. So we kind of did this on our own regard in order to ensure people in the sim have very good airspeed indications and altitude and vertical speed. These are things that we need as simmers. And we'll always be open to feedback if you guys want to see more things or a different screen to display in this area, or just a whole nother page in general. Please let us know. We'll take that feedback into consideration and we'll work on that for future updates. So let's go ahead and start up the aircraft. So drop my throttle down. I'll go crack it a little bit. Now, as you can see here, as I'm moving my throttle, both of my throttles are working. This is because I just have a single throttle peripheral. Some people do have dual throttles, and you can control each one of these individually, and you can set that up in your controller settings. In my case, I'm just using one. So we're going to start out with turning on our fuel pumps. Then we're going to go up here, and we don't need a pitot today. This is your pitot heat for cold weather operations. I'm going to go ahead and just turn all my lights on, all my magnetos on. And then just of note, so these are your circuit breakers, and they will pop in flight as you have realism set, right? So if you have something fail, let's say your MVP50 System 2, your screen will go black. So I know a lot of you guys, we've already been getting reports of like, hey, you know, my screen went black. What happened? Something's wrong with the add-on. Reality, please go up here and check your circuit breakers first. Make sure that something's not popped, because if it does pop, that's actually a simulated failure. It's nothing wrong with your add-on. You just got to kind of adapt, and these things are very important for us to include, so we hope that you guys really enjoy them, because everything up here will have a consequence, okay? This is just your flight hours tracker, so this will actually track your flight hours, while the one on the display will track your engine Hobbs meters, right? So I've been using this one for about 30 seconds less than my front. So keep that in mind. This is just solely your hour tracker in the airframe. Then you got your ELT, and then master circuit breaker. This will pop periodically. If that pops, your full system dead. So make sure that you always are checking all your breakers, including this little guy that's hiding around here. Now currently I have my master warning light turned on. That's because my alternators are not running yet. So it's letting me know, like, hey, you're just working off battery, and that's okay for now. So let's go ahead and start our engines. Make sure we have our fuel in appropriate, so your fuel front and your fuel rear. And then let's go ahead and start our engines. So we got our front and rear started. And you'll notice that on the fuel page now we have everything up and running and operational. And here's where we can monitor all of our temperatures. Okay, so right now I want to monitor my oil temperature. I want to kind of heat it up, give it a little bit of gas here, let this oil temperature really get up, because if you try going flying with cold oil, if you don't know, you're going to do some damage to your engine. And same thing applies for our aircraft. It's Realism, so if you try to go straight into takeoff, straight from engine starts, and you're on Realism, you're probably going to have some engine damage. So make sure you sit here before you take off and let that oil temperature get into the green. So while that's sitting here warming up, let's talk about some other features. So as you can see here, I'm having red lights on my alternator 1 and my alternator 2. I'm going to go ahead and turn those on. They let me know I'm generating power now. Now if I drop my throttle below a certain percentage, you're going to see that those lights turn back on. That is because they're not producing efficient power to charge your battery. We have oil pressure, front and rear. These will come on when you know you've lost oil pressure. We have a stall warning, an icing warning. So if you're flying in an iced condition, this light will come on. Now, let's say that light comes on and you want to use windshield de-ice, so you turn that on so you stop the de-ice from happening. You come up here and turn your pitot heat on. Your icing light is still going to stay red because you're in icing conditions. So this light will be red anytime you're in icing conditions. It's not dependent on if you've made any corrective actions or anything. And then your low fuel left and right tank, okay? So keep an eye out on these. If you're approaching low fuel, these will go red. Make sure to really keep an eye on this because fuel is persistent flight to flight. So let's say I end my flight with 2 gallons in the tank, right? The next time I start up, I try to take off thinking it's a brand new flight. These lights are going to be red, okay? They're going to be telling you, hey man, you should have checked your fuel before you took off. And I've had this happen to me multiple times. That's why I'm bringing it up. I'll go into a multiplayer flight, and then all of a sudden I'm like, my engines just die, and I'm like, what is going on? Did I break something last night with my changes to this? And the answer is no, my fuel's persistent. I forgot to refuel before I took off. So make sure you guys are watching these closely. And then in the center is obviously your turn coordinator for your slip indicator. And then, so here you can hide and unhide your yoke. We have your toe brakes, and we also have your rudder pedals, okay? Then up here we have your flap handle. Now we didn't want the whole handle to get in the way of all this stuff on the back wall, so to do the flap handle, you can go to the button on top and you can scroll your mouse in order to move between positions. Now I do want to talk a little bit about the positions of the flaps. They're a little different on the DoubleEnder. So on the DoubleEnder we have 5 positions, okay? So position 0, position 1 is fully retracted. In fully retracted, as you're using your ailerons, you'll see that your spoilerons also will deflect, and that gives you more increased roll rating. On flap position 1, you can see there's no change of degrees. It's simply sliding back on the rail. It's a very unique system, okay? And when it slides back on the rail, what's happening here is you can see a locking pin that is retaining your spoilerons. So now if I try to do turn, I have that loss of that extra turn rating because my spoilerons are not activating anymore. This is by design because this is basically increasing your surface area, and this flap setting should most likely be used for performance gains, okay? So for cruise, for any time you're trying to look to maximize your surface area and not have any kind of drag potential, this is what you're going to want to be using. The third position is your 20-degree flaps, and as you can see, the hook now is not hooked to anything, so my spoilerons are now free. So anything beyond this point, I have free spoilerons. So you have your 20-degree, your 40-degree, and your 60-degree, okay? And these are more than likely used for dive flaps to really slow you down when you need to. With flaps, we also have leading edge slats, okay? So as you go through these positions, You also have slats on the front that will really help you out through these takeoffs and landings, especially in the backcountry, okay? So keep that in mind. We already talked through our fuel panel down here for auxiliary pod. If you don't have your auxiliary pod installed, you're still going to see this stuff, but none of this will actually work. If you're coming in for landing, you're way too heavy, you have an emergency situation, you can dump your fuel. I'll go ahead and demonstrate that to you guys now. If I still have fuel in there, I do. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this. You're going to see how fast that dumps everything, okay? So this is an emergency fuel dump, and it turns on that valve and just really dumps this stuff out. So this is a real quick, easy way to lose some weight if you're way too heavy on landing and you're okay with dumping fuel, or you're having an emergency. There you go. Over here, we have our flight director. Now, this is the same one as seen in the Wilga, but it's coded differently. So this one will actually work with software and hardware autopilot systems. We're going to implement this into the Wilga in the future on an update. But if you're not using that, keep in mind that this is just very simple. So it's unavailable because I'm on ground right now, but if you're flying and you turn this on, what it's going to do is it's going to level your aircraft based on your pitch and your turn set right here, okay? So as soon as you turn that on, your aircraft will probably level out to the default 0, and then you can manipulate these degrees as you are in flight, and it will keep you steady. It's very, very useful if you're like gotta use the bathroom, you don't want to pause the game, or you have a very long stretch and you don't want to keep your hand on the yoke the entire time. This will help you out with that. And then lastly is your trim, right? So you have your trim up and your trim down. Now, arguably the biggest one, and probably the question you guys have the most, is what is this Airmaster controller system, okay? So we have our front Airmaster unit, the AC200R, and then we have our rear, the AC200F. What's the difference, okay? Well, the R allows you to go into beta mode, or reverse, okay? And in the F, we allow you to go into feather mode. So how do you do these modes, okay? Let's make sure our oil's good. We're getting into the yellow, so we're good enough to do this. So I'm going to demonstrate to you guys how do you go into reverse beta. So the first thing you want to do is ensure that you're not in auto mode. Auto mode on these things makes it so none of this works. If you're in auto, none of these matter. This knob, none of this matters. Auto is being automatically governed by your throttle, and your prop is automatically being taken care of by the system, and it's very useful for people who just don't want to deal with this system at all. If you're in manual mode, and you'll hear the change there, then I can set it to takeoff, I can set it to climb, I can set it to cruise, I can set it to hold, which we'll talk about here sooner, or I can set it to beta, or in this case feather. Okay, so as you can tell, we have blinking light letting us know we're in beta and feather. So if I want to reverse, the first thing I would do is I'd probably drop my rear into feather. So you turn that on, the steady light's letting you know that it's going into feather mode. And then on beta, I'm going to go ahead and drop that into beta on the front. Turn my parking brakes off. And now when I give it throttle, you can see that we're going backwards, okay? So keep this in mind, that this is not meant to be used in flight, especially with piston engines. This is used to help you with ground maneuvering. We are not responsible for any damage you do to your aircraft in flight with beta. So there is a possibility that you guys will be throwing off your prop and your engine torque completely when using beta in flight, so be really careful. I do not recommend it. You probably, if you're on Realism, you're going to break stuff. So, and I'll be talking about hold mode a little bit. I'll get these all set up for you on hold. Like I said, these don't do anything on auto, so I can set these up beforehand. And I'll talk about the fine and coarse switch a little bit as we go flying. So let's get taken off here. So I'm going to go ahead and set my flaps to third position, which is 20 degrees, And of course, this is dependent on how you're going to fly it. If it's a very short field or not, you can increase or decrease this depending on how you wish. But yeah, let's go ahead and take off. So I'm going to start giving it a little bit of throttle, position myself, and let's go. Very beautiful area here. Like I said, if you want to go check out more of the Duke Nukem sceneries, I highly recommend just going to flightsim.to and mass downloading everything this guy has. Everything he has is very good. So, okay, and I'm going to demonstrate how this autopilot works. As you can see here, I'm in a steady climb. If I go ahead and turn on autopilot now, it's going to level me out to my predefined settings. I can go ahead and turn left. I go ahead and turn right. So that is how that works, and you can set your pitch and everything as well. So let's go ahead and demonstrate exactly what this hold mode does, okay? So before I do anything, as you can see, I'm at full throttle, okay? Full throttle. So I want to demonstrate to you guys that right now I'm stressing my engine, okay? And currently nothing's going to happen until you get over 75%. Once you get over 75%, you're going to start having engine stutters periodically, and then you're going to start damaging your engine as well. So make sure you guys are keeping a good eye on this, and if you simply drop that down to a good pace, you're going to see it start to decrease. So this is to let you know, like, how you're handling your throttle is very important when you're using Realism, because you do not want to be stressing your engines out. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and go full so I can demonstrate what this is doing precisely when we go into hold mode. So if I go into hold mode or manual mode from here, I'm now in hold mode, as I said, because I pre-selected these. And as you can see, my RPM is basically staying at what it's been at this entire time, full throttle. If I go into course mode, you're going to see my RPM start to drop, because what it's doing is it's currently feathering the prop. And you don't have to use these in hold. You can just do a little bit of fine, get up to the RPM you want to, and then turn it off. This is in the future we're going to link these to the propeller controller so that you can use your propeller knob in order to modify this. And then if you get to full course, you're pretty much full feathered on the rear. And then if you go full fine, which I'm going to demonstrate here, you need to be careful because you can overspeed your prop, okay? So if you overspeed your prop, your stress is going to jump through the roof and you're going to start damaging your engine. You'll probably have an instantaneous failure, which I'll demonstrate here. Go full fine, you're going to see overspeed, and now I've damaged my engine because I have not been monitoring this correctly. And you'll know you're in full fine or course because you're going to have your light up here blinking, okay? So if I go into course now, it's steady, letting me know I'm moving into course mode. When I'm in fully course, it's going to be blinking to let you know you're fully course. So now that we have a damaged engine, you can see because our cylinders are out of whack, I'm just going to go ahead and turn off my front engine. And as you can see here, we are, let me go back into auto mode on the rear. Don't want to accidentally hurt the rear engine. We are now flying with one engine. So the big thing about the DoubleEnder is that the DoubleEnder is really safe. Okay, it's meant to take off, it's meant to land, it's meant to cruise with one engine. Okay, and this is was very important to us, because this is what Alec Wild and his team of experts really tried to push with this aircraft, was that it is very safe, gorgeous views, but overall it's just very safe, okay? And so for the rest of this tutorial, I'm just going to fly with one engine, and you're going to see how safe this really is. As you can see here, I'm going to demonstrate the vibration too. I knew I was going to talk about that. So if you can change the vibration in here, like I stated with the vibration effects, or you can use the friction knob here and decrease your vibration. So if you're at 0, as you can see, there's no vibration. At 100, there's full vibration. Another quick thing here is you got headphone mode. So if you go ahead and click on your headphones, all your sound will now be doled out in the cockpit, and that is to simulate that you're wearing headphones. You can go ahead and click the headphone cord again to take the headphones off. You also have your front spotlight and your rear spotlight. You can drag the entire spotlight as a whole, position it where you want, and then the front knob, you can increase your brightness, and this will work when your battery's on or off. There's no light switch for it, so you'll have good night operations there. You can also open up your top window in flight. Gets really loud. To close it, that's some question people have had. They've tried to click things up in here. To close it, you can simply click on the door, either one of these knobs, okay, and we'll close that. The bottom door will not open in flight if you're above 20 knots, so keep that in mind. You can also click on this little pin here, which is your window close pin, and that will open up your window. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this little tutorial video and kind of like a more deeper dive into what the DoubleEnder can do. It's a very reliable aircraft. We've thrown a lot of features in here that are very deep, and hopefully you guys are excited to kind of delve a little bit deeper. Like I said, the flight manual is available online if you guys have any questions, or it's included in the package in the documentation folder that will answer some more depth of all this, okay? So before we leave the video, I just got one more quick thing to show you, some question that's been popping out in the forum, specifically in regards to the campsite. So let's go ahead and just do a quick return to home, okay? If I can find where we were. Regardless, we'll just settle down somewhere. Alright, so let's go ahead and shut down our engines. And the question people have had is the campsite stuff, okay? Specifically, how come I put out my campsite right now and I deploy it, and I don't have my rear seat in, so I should have some camping gear. How come I don't see my campsite, okay? And that's because, like I said, your weight and balance, right? So you have to be over 40 pounds to see the tent. Oh, that's 400. And there you go, you see your nice little tent there, or 170 pounds to see everything. And if you don't have your gear deployed, you'll know that you have your camping gear set up correctly, because if you remove it, it's now sitting in the cargo compartment in the rear, so that you can see how this reacts with everything. So as you can go through here, you can see how it stacks up, okay? And some neat features about it, and this is why I'm highlighting this, is if you have it deployed, you have the fuel service screen, but you can also utilize a more realistic option, which is you deploy your jerry cans. You got 5 gallons in each one. You go ahead and add up to 5 gallons from the jerry can directly into your tank on each side, okay? And as you can see here, I'm still in cockpit view. I'm just slewing using my keyboard. You can't do this in exterior view, so if you're using like the regular view like this, clicking stuff's not going to work, okay? So you can't go here and try to click stuff. It's just not going to work out for you. You can only do it in cockpit mode. And then you can move all the way to the tent here. You can open the tent. You can explore the options that we have for you in the tent, okay? So some fun interactive features, not really adding any value to the product, but you know, we like to have fun around here. We're got friends, so I hope you guys enjoy some of these cool little things that you can do. And then one more thing I want to point out for you guys, because I know a lot of you just don't know about some of these things you can do here. You can also open the cargo pod, and you can explore the features that are included as part of that as well, okay? So I'll let you guys explore these on your own accord. Some fun stuff in there. But yeah, thank you for, you know, supporting Got Friends, purchasing the DoubleEnder, or you're excited to purchase the DoubleEnder, or you're not sure, and this video maybe helped you with your decision. It's a very deep aircraft, guys. We're very excited. It's very stow capable. It's fun in the bush. backcountry, you know, and we hope that you guys enjoy it as much as we enjoyed making it. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop by our Discord server. Once again, that's at www.discord.com/got-gravel. Or you can go ahead and hit us up with any questions you have from our official website support contact or our official email, and that is a gotfriends.msfs@gmail.com. Thanks once again for supporting us. We'll see you guys on the next project. We got some big plans for the future, so see you guys next time.